you go around and you collect offers. You get 2 or 3 offers. Let's say you get one offer, company A at 100,000. You get a second offer, company B at 110. A lot of people would just go back to company A and say, I have an offer for 110. What can you do? But what you really should do is go to both companies and say, today, we're talking about the 3 times where you can and should negotiate your salary. People are always telling you to negotiate your salary, but nobody is telling you when you should do it and how you should do it. My name is Gerrie. I help aspiring and current STEM professionals land new roles, find career fulfillment, and secure higher incomes. My superpower is helping people establish their professional brands and to uncover their unique value. If you're on my newsletter list, I send a newsletter every Wednesday to my community. We were talking this week about how when I took my first job as an engineer, the very first offer that I got was for a little bit over $50,000. And that might sound okay, right? Some people, if you're unemployed or depending on your industry, you're like, I'll take that right away, right now. But I made a huge mistake. And that mistake was that I didn't negotiate at all. And I didn't negotiate because I didn't know how, right? I had gone 4 years through this engineering degree and negotiation never came up once. Not once did negotiations come up. So I didn't have anyone in my educational network who was talking about negotiating. And then from my family perspective, I was the first the first person in my family to really pursue a corporate career. Everyone else was pretty much, working for the government. My dad worked for the city as an electrician. My mom was a social worker. So they didn't really have the experience either. So I didn't negotiate. I took what they gave me. And the problem with that is that after I started, and then the mistake I made is then I talked to some of my friends after, this is probably a year into my career now, and people are like, what? That's what they gave you? I mean, I later found out that I probably could have got closer to 60. I could have gotten over 60. So I started my career at a deficit. I started, making $10,000 less than I should have. And fortunately, the story ends well. I was able to catch up and make up for it. And some of the times that I was able to make up for it is what we're going to talk about today. But I think what I have to take away from that story is that I think I was afraid to talk about money, like a lot of people who are, first generation going to college, first generation, getting higher salaries and, getting these degrees in these corporate jobs. Nobody's talking about money. Nobody's, putting you in a position where you even know negotiating is an option, let alone what and how to do it. And back then when I took my job, Glassdoor wasn't around. None of these websites where all this information that we have today at our fingertips, none of this stuff was around. So you really had to talk to people. So what I've learned after 17 years in my career, the 3 times that you can and should negotiate your salary. The very first time, and we've kind of talked about it, giving you a little bit of a sneak peek into what the first time is when you take a new role. But the extra to this point is it doesn't matter if you're an internal candidate, if you're an external candidate, or even if you're taking a lateral role. A lot of people think that if I'm just going, a lateral move, maybe I don't deserve to negotiate my salary. I don't deserve to make more. Similarly, if you're internal and, you're moving around the organization, you still should negotiate. A lot of people, when they try to move around internally, they think, oh, it's about the experience. And sometimes it is about the experience. But if you don't ask, if you don't ask about the money, they're not going to bring it up. And typically, there's some budget. There's always some budget when you're bringing on a new person for your team, whether it's internal, external, whatever. You should always ask. So definitely, when you're taking on that new role, you definitely want to ask. And the real reason you want to ask is because the market is constantly changing. The salary ranges, inflation is crazy right now. The market is always changing. And so the way I like to describe how the market is changing and the way you should look at it is that think about your favorite clothing store or wherever you shop. And so they have inventory this week. And this inventory is great, it's priced, and people are buying it. But next week, when they get the another batch of new inventory, brand new styles, people who are shopping regularly, they're navigating to the new styles. They want to see what those are. And that's how you get the sales rack, right? The sales rack are the inventory from previous weeks. And so when you're going for this new role, you are becoming the new inventory. So position yourself as such. You're not on sale. You're not going to, even if you're internal, even if you're jumping companies, there's no reason for you to keep your salary the same because you're new inventory. And so I want you to think about that, the next time you get an opportunity to, negotiate. It's like, I'm new inventory. I need to price myself as if I just hit the shelf today. It's almost like the expiration date on food. I just hit the shelf today. I'm more valuable. So that's the way, it's kind of a mindset shift to help people when they're like, oh, I don't know if I should ask. Your new inventory. So the second time that Dominique says, amen. The second time that you can and should negotiate is when your company needs you the most. And this is one that you have to give it a little bit of thought, and you have to be strategic. You have to be paying attention. You can't just be doing your job. You have to be looking around you and saying, hey, what is going on in the landscape of this company? And so sometimes when your company needs you the most, someone quits. Someone on your team quits. And now there's more work that needs to be absorbed by the people here. Or you become the expert on something. So, there are situations where maybe you're the owner of some software and nobody else in the company knows the software but you. That puts you in a great position to leverage your skills, because if you leave, the company, they're completely at risk. So I'm not by any means saying, force these situations. I'm saying recognize these situations. Recognize the fact that I'm the only one on this team that has this knowledge. I'm the only one on this team that can solve this problem. I'm the only one on this team that can get the company, the team out of a jam if something happens, if there's a problem on this system today. I'm the only one that can do it. That is a time where you should reassess your skills, go to the marketplace and see, if I'm a software engineer, what's the range of pay that software engineers are making at my company and my city, just to get a feel for where you are. Because companies have no incentive to keep you at market rate. They're running a business. And them running a business means that their goal is to what? Keep costs low. They want to keep costs low. And you want to keep your salary high. Those are competing desires. So if they have no incentive to out of the blue keep you at market rate. You have to take it upon yourself. You have to go do your market research. And if you find yourself in a position where your company needs you the most, you definitely should pull the negotiation card. That is probably the most effective way to get an internal salary adjustment. You cannot just go to your company, your manager, your boss and say, I need a salary adjustment because I want more money. Doesn't work. You have to have some leverage. And your leverage is that I know you're in a deficit, if I'm no longer here. And I wouldn't say it like that. I'd probably put it in a better sentence and make it soften the blow. But that's essentially what you're saying, is that I know I'm valued here. I know my skill set is really needed by the company. I'd like to see if we could review my compensation. Put it out there. And if you really are valued and they really do need you, they won't put up a fight. The third time that you can and should negotiate your salary is when you have options. And having options means you're working, you have other companies who are making you offers, like offer in hand. And, maybe you're at a company, you have 2 or 3 different teams who would like you to join their team. Anytime you're in a position to make a choice, I can choose this job, I can choose this company, I can choose, this team, you should negotiate. I don't care what company it is. If they tell you they can't negotiate, it's probably not factual. Companies are never, everything is a range. Everything is a range. They can't just pinpoint and say, we're only offering $65,000 for this role. We're only offering $102,000 for this role. They can't do it. So the range is typically, find the average on Glassdoor. So if, let's just say 100 is the target for them, they target a salary that they want to give. They want to give 100,000. That means they might start offering at 90 and they might be open to 120. They've never given you the full number. So go do your negotiation research. And I do have a free guide. I have a free negotiation guide. The link is in my bio. In case you're new here and you haven't seen that, it get really deep on like how to do the research and what you should be saying. I even have a script in there on how to negotiate. So go ahead and download that if you have not. There are more jobs than there are people to fill them right now. You actually are in a power position right now as a job candidate. And so you go around and you collect offers. You get 2 or 3 offers. Let's say you get one offer, company A at 100,000. You get a second offer, company B at 110. A lot of people would just go back to company A and say, I have an offer for 110. What can you do? But what you really should do is go to both companies and say, I'm in a multiple offer situation. Please submit, and I'm really interested in both organizations. I really want to pick the right, scenario for me, butter them up a little bit, about how their situation is so great. But ultimately you're saying, please submit your best, your most competitive compensation package so that I can make a decision. And then you put it on them, right? Because company A, who offered you 100, you can go ahead and tell them that I have an offer for, give it some cushion, 112. I have an offer for 112. They at least know a competitive offer from them needs to beat that. Company B, you don't really need to give them a value. You just need to say, I'm in a multiple offer situation. Please submit your most competitive offer. It doesn't matter what you think I have. Submit your best. What can you afford? And that's what you're hoping the companies will do as well. They will not necessarily try to compete with, well, what do you have? And let me see if I can beat that. No, submit your best. What is it that you can offer me? As we've gone through today, I do want to say that if you are looking to establish your brand and uncover your unique value. If you want to learn how to use those as leverage during your next negotiation, whether it's internal, you're job searching and you got an external opportunity, go ahead and drop "I need this" in the chat. And then I'll send you a DM and we'll talk about how we can use your brand and your unique value as additional leverage in your negotiations. Now, let me get into these comments. Claudia says, money is not taught in school, period. Family make you feel like you don't need to ask. That is so good. I mentioned earlier that a lot of us don't negotiate with our first jobs or ever because they don't teach it in school. And then our families, they're love them to death, but they're kind of clueless. They don't, they can't help you negotiate either. They're like, what are you talking about? You just take what they give you. You definitely need to ask. We're about asking. This new generation, we're asking, we're getting, we're taking what's ours. And I think, for me, as a Black woman, as a person of color, we have an additional hill to overcome. And that's, our people and our culture, we are accustomed to just taking what we can get because it has been so hard just to get anything, just to get anywhere. So that's another thing, another, mindset shift that we have to make is that, no, we should take up space. We're here. We're worthy. We have these seats at the table because we earned them. Definitely ask for what you're worth. Oh, Monique says, I end up working part-time jobs to earn extra. I'm tired. Monique, that's not what we're doing. I create a lot of content around the idea that your job is supposed to do way more than just provide the bare minimum. And Monique, it sounds like they're not even providing the bare minimum, right? I think that's like the floor. The floor for me and my clients is what are my needs, my basic needs. And then we're negotiating to get that extra so that we have money to not have to work part-time, to make investments, to live comfortably, to put something away. A lot of companies are laying people off. I mean, if you're just meeting your basic needs, you definitely won't have anything in the case of emergency. And that's something I do want to touch on, is because some people don't negotiate because they think, oh, it's only $1,000. It's only $5,000. It's not only anything. It's more than you had. Don't feel like the negotiation is not successful. Say you ask for 10 and they give you 5. Well, had you not asked for anything, you would have been -5. So consider every negotiation a win. Everything that you can get above and beyond what you asked for is a win. Monique says, I'm going to share this with my daughter. She's graduating college in May. I love that. I think one of the best things we can do is share our experiences with others so that they can learn from our mistakes. And that's why I share openly that I didn't negotiate for my first role. And by taking all the things into account that I shared with you today, I ended up 5Xing my salary because that never happened to me again. My very next job, I made sure I made a huge correction. Every job, huge correction. Because I knew that I needed to keep up with the market, that I was new inventory, and that I had something to prove because I started off in the negative. So please share this with your daughter. I love that. We have to feel comfortable asking, Samira says. And it's almost about comfort is not even really the word. It's not about comfort. It's about need. We need to ask. There is money being left on the table. Money that you may never have access to again. I was lucky enough that I job hopped. When the job no longer served me, when I realized the market had changed and the company I was with, that they were, the new salary was out of range for them, I left. I did what I needed to do. Having a level of financial comfort and being secure. And what in 2020, yes, due to COVID-19, I was actually laid off. because I was supporting the aerospace industry, and we all know what happened with the airlines during that time. And because I had aggressively negotiated every year prior to that, I was just fine. I had enough money saved up. I had cushion. I started investing. I was fine. And that's another reason that, you need to negotiate. It's not always about today. It's like, I might need this money tomorrow. So keep that in mind too. It's not about comfort. It's about need. Thanks everybody for joining today. See you next week. Bye.